Hello everyone, my name is Alex with the Sachem Public Library, and today we will be going over the Valheim Build Challenge. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can start constructing things in Valheim, what you'll need to do to be building anything in Valheim, how to navigate the menus, and then I'm going to show you what I've built, and then I look forward to seeing what everyone else is able to create. So in order to build anything, first thing you'll need is a hammer, which you do get by default. When you have the hammer equipped by pressing 1 if you have it in the 1 position like I do. So you hit whichever number key that it correlates to. If you're using a controller to play, you can use the left and right buttons on your D-pad to move the highlighted selection in the quick toolbar. And then you hit the up button to select whichever is highlighted, and that either equips it or unequips it. So in my case, I want the hammer equipped. And then in the bottom right of the screen here, you can see I have the ability to choose either place, remove, build menu, or toggle snapping and options. So in this case, I want to open up my build menu, and this is going to show me what I can actually create. And I have a miscellaneous section here, a crafting section, a building section, and a furniture section. So by choosing one of these tabs here, I can create any of those various items. So if I want building, I can go into building, and then if you hover over any object, it tells you what you need to create that particular object. So if I wanted to build this, sharp stakes, I would need 6 wood and 4 core wood, and a workbench. So in order to build anything from this menu, except for a workbench, or anything that doesn't show that you need a workbench, like most of the stuff in miscellaneous you might not need a workbench for, like a campfire, you need to be in the range of a workbench, which can be built with 10 wood. So I have my workbench right here. Workbench can also be used to create other things, as well as repair gear and upgrade gear that you're wearing. So you can use this to do tons of things like make brand new types of capes, or new weapons, or arrows, or better armor. But as long as you're in the range of a workbench, you can equip your hammer. You can move a little bit further away from the workbench. Then you can open up your build menu, and you can go to building, and you can click on something that requires the use of a workbench, such as a wood wall. And you can see this white dotted line that's hovering around. That shows you the range of the workbench that you're standing in. You can see that if I try and build here, it's going to tell me I don't have a workbench. That's because I'm out of that range that the workbench was in. So if I wanted to build over there, I would need to build another workbench somewhere in that area, and then that would allow me to build more objects in that location. So I can place a workbench down temporarily, do my building, and then destroy the workbench. So I can place this object down. Now, while I have an object hovering like this, if I move my scroll wheel up and down, it will rotate that object. And then it can snap against other objects, depending on where you're placing it. So if I wanted to build some walls here, I could place that down here, and it's going to consume some of my wood. It's going to use 2 wood per wall piece. And you can see the total is currently at 52, and if I build another one, it goes down to 50. And I can snap these together by hovering over them, and they'll click together. And I can keep going, placing objects like that. And now I've built a wall. Now if I want to remove a wall, if I hover over an active wall and I click my scroll wheel, it'll remove that wall, and I can recover all of the material that I used to build those, so I'm not losing any of the material that I used to build. And now I've destroyed all those pieces of wall, and I'm back to where I was. So, what's next? Next thing would be building something that does not actually work. So if you hover and try to build something where it won't actually stand, it will give you a warning. So if you try to place something in an invalid location, see how these are green? That means it can be placed there. But that, see how it's red? That means that if you build this, it would work, but it would fall. It either won't be placed, or it's blocked, or it could fall apart, depending on how you build it. So if I place that there, this doesn't have support structures, so it's likely that it will fall. I build it up. Let's see, let's build it out. Go here. So you can see how these are yellow. It means that there's no support structures here. So these are likely to collapse. So they will collapse over a given period of time. So if they're green, that means it can be placed. But because it was yellow, that means that it has no actual support structures to it. And they will fall apart. Here, I'll show you. So we'll build this here. We'll build another one on top. And then building on this one would cause the structure to fall apart because they're just hovering in the air. So you want to make sure that when you're placing your objects, so if I were to place something here, I get either a blue glow or a green glow. So that's a valid placement. You don't want it to be yellow or red. So you're really looking for green or blue are the two colors for when you're placing objects, so that way you know they can sit there without falling apart. The other thing to note when doing this is that certain objects can only be stacked so high on top of each other. So if you're looking to build tall objects like this, they need to be made of stronger materials. So stone or metal reinforced stone will be stronger materials to build with than just wood. So if you want to build tall towers, you need to use a mix of stone and wood. So I have these stairs here that are built out of wood, and the surrounding outside is made out of stone. Let's turn this off. Okay. So the wood is purely for aesthetic purposes here, but most of this tower is built with stone blocks because they're stronger and they can hold up better to being built taller. Wood is good for building wide, but not necessarily tall. So if I take a look at this structure here, I've built a house, I've added some aesthetic design choices to it, like these flags. But in order for this house to actually work, these beams outside aren't actually for aesthetic purposes. These are actually to make sure that the structure stays together. That's extra important for these roof sections here. You need lots of supports and these different cross stitchings here in order for the roof to not fall apart as you're building it, because the roof can fall apart very, very easily. So I can show you from the inside, there's lots of supports in here. So we have beams on the sides, we've got the walls on all four corners, we've got the support structures here. See these thicker red wood structures? These are used for supports for the roof. So if those weren't there, if I didn't have these structures, the roof here would start to collapse. And when parts of the roof are not covered, I'm not in what's called shelter. So if you look up in the top right of the screen, right next to where the map is, it says shelter. That means that I recover health and energy quicker, I can rest, so I can put a bed down and sleep. If you're not under shelter, you can't place a bed. You get extra stamina and different bonuses when you've been rested for a while. So you want these structures to be placed throughout your building in order for the roof sections to maintain themselves and not collapse while building. You can do this with just regular types of wood. So if we look at our build options here, you could do that with a log pole. You can use wood beams for supports if you're earlier in the game. If you're later into the game, you can use wood iron. So this is going to be stronger than any type of just regular wood. So if you have access to iron, you can use wood iron poles and beams to build supports, and those will be even stronger. So you can build even taller or more robust structures with wood iron beams. So I want to show you the rest of what I have built here. So a lot of the structures are comprised of just stone and wood here. Not a lot of wood iron, mostly because iron is harder to obtain, so it's easier to just build structures out of wood. And you can see there's another workbench here. I have the area defined here that will always be outlined by a white line as you're building. So if you put a workbench down, it will be shown to you as you're creating things. You won't see it when you're not actually building something. It will go away. But if you are building something, that white line will show you where in that area you can actually build something. So a lot of this is stone. So if you have access to a stone cutter, stone is a great material to build with because it is robust. You can stack a lot of it without it destroying itself. It doesn't need supports like wood does in order to be stacked taller. So stone structures are great for starting out once you have the stone cutter unlocked. So I have a handful of different buildings and structures here. I made some stairs. And then I have some wood stairs here, and then an upper area to walk around in. So this base is designed for multiple people to be using, not just for one person. If you are building for one person, you probably wouldn't need as many buildings or as many different types of structures created as I have here. But if you are building with wood at all inside of a structure, so see this piece of design here where I had that passageway made out of wood. Because this part is wood, I needed these support structures here to maintain that from collapsing. And if you ever get a warning when placing something, if something is yellow or red when you're about to place it, it will fall apart. And that means that the area that you're trying to place onto has not been supported properly. So you might have to take another look at where you have designed your what your current design is, and then make some changes in order to make sure that you have proper support. So you can see that all of this is green. So if I were to place something, it would stay attached to whatever I was working on because I have all of these different pieces supported throughout. So I've got the support beams, then I've got the different support line going through here, and then everything is on solid ground right at the base. So I didn't build anything hovering in the air because that will affect whether or not things are able to be built and stay built, is having a good foundation for your buildings. So if it wasn't on solid ground, I would have a lot more problems. So if you're building something, you want to make sure that the ground is evened out and that you're either placing directly on the ground that's even, or you build a base with stone or some other object. That way you aren't building pieces of your base that are hovering in midair, because that will affect the structural integrity of your overall buildings. The easiest way to gather resources for building is just cutting down trees, and then the different trees you cut down will have different materials. So depending on where you are, some trees will give normal wood. Trees that give poor wood can be found in the dark forest. So if you take a look at the map, the Black Forest, the Black Forest is where you can find core wood, and then different types of trees in the meadows can either give regular wood or they can give fine wood. Fine wood is something that you unlock later on in the game that's used for some harder to get materials or more complex or more refined materials than your standard wood-based objects like a plain old gate. And when you try to cut something that you can't cut with the beginner axe, it won't let you cut it. So in order to get fine wood, you'll be cutting trees such as birch trees. That will give you fine wood. So if I go to cut down this birch tree here, okay, I have fine wood. So you'll get a mix of regular and fine wood. Same thing with the fir trees in the Black Forest. You'll get a mixture of regular wood and core wood. I would recommend saving up as much of it as possible because you will always be using more and more of it. I wouldn't leave any on the ground. I would store them if you can at all possible. So I'll give you one last tour of the base overall, and then you can take some design hints from this, or you can go in a completely different direction than something that I've built. I'm greatly looking forward to seeing everyone's designs. One other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that walls and objects that you're building can take damage. So if you look here, I'm going to build a workbench quickly. So I'll place a workbench right here. If you hover over an object with your hammer, you can see the health of the object and the health bar next to it. And when you're using the hammer within the hammer menu, that's actually repair. So if you hit an object that's been damaged, you will actually repair it. This is quite common when doing building. Things can get damaged by water coming into contact with it. So if you're building over the ocean, floor tiles can get damaged over time. If you're being raided by some sort of enemy mob, those enemy mobs can do sometimes significant damage to the different materials and parts of your base that you've worked on, and the only way to fix those would be to use the hammer on them within the range of a workbench, and then repair the damages taken by those particular pieces of your base. If an object in your base is destroyed by an enemy mob, the materials still will appear, so you can pick them up even if they've been destroyed. So you won't lose any materials if they were to be damaged, but it is best to make sure that especially the surrounding outer walls of your base are kept up in good shape, because if you forget to repair them between raids, it's possible that that same wall that took half damage in the previous raid has now taken the remaining of its damage and then will be broken completely, and then the enemy can then enter through the hole that they've created. So definitely keep an eye on your different parts of your base and make sure they're all maintained and repaired, but it is a good tool to have if you needed it. Okay, so we'll get one more quick look at the base that I have, and then I look forward to seeing everyone's designs. Okay, I hope everyone enjoyed this tutorial video, and I am very excited to see what everyone has put together for their village challenge. I wish everyone luck. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day.